Digital 410 Productions proudly presents the What's in Your Head podcast.
Digitized live from
your company name here.
Studios in Cape Coral, Florida. It's the What's in Your Head podcast.
What's up, OG5? We're back for another episode of the What's in Your Head podcast. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully, for your listening enjoyment, after 7.5 years, we finally got a little bit cleaner sound quality thanks to the construction of my new computer. So we've reduced our podcast studio from having to use 2 computers to record this mediocre show to using one mediocre, actually really good computer. But hopefully you guys can tell the quality and difference between previous shows and the show now. Somehow, I don't know why, but my family decides to save their bullshit before we go on live, right? So I'm in here getting things ready, playing a little DayZ, trying to get my microphone to work and try not to starve to death while shitting my pants, because, well, that happens on DayZ, especially when you eat human meat because you're starving to death. But I hear sounds in the background, almost like the Peanuts and the teachers. What the fuck's going on now? And they come in, they open the door. Okay. Sariana recently found out she has an older brother. Fantastic. Fucking awesome. Talk to him on the phone, get to know each other, yada, yada, yada. He's like, I don't know, maybe late 20s, early 30s. A little backstory on Sariana. She has her license and a car now. But she's been driving for what, maybe 2 months with a license? You know, she's had her temporaries for a while, but she's been driving consistently now for 2 months. She drives to school and she drives home from school. She goes to school off of Evans, about 2 blocks from the mall. Now, I know this is a universal show, so for you guys listening at home, she drives about maybe 8 to possibly 10 miles to school and then 10 miles back during rush hour, but she drives that. And then maybe at night she'll drive 5-6 miles, and at the longest, her and her friends have gone out and drove around and gone places, you know, just piddle dick driving around, basic stuff.
Piddle dick.
Her brother mentions, hey, I'm coming to Florida because he lives in Texas. Why don't you hop in your car and come hang out? Sure. So now she comes to us and says, hey, can I drive to Jacksonville this weekend? Oh, I forgot one major important thing. She has not ever driven on the interstate yet. The fastest she's ever traveled in her car is 55 miles an hour. The longest she's ever driven at one time is about 45 minutes. But we're the assholes because we're not allowing her to make a 6-hour drive on the interstate at 80 miles an hour when she's never been on the interstate. She's never driven faster than 60 miles an hour, and she's been driving for 2 months, and her longest commute has been 20 minutes. And she can't... I'm like, you don't have the experience. I can get the experience. It's 2 weeks. I said, you haven't even driven from Cape Coral to Fort Myers on the goddamn interstate. You want to drive to Jacksonville? No, it's not going to happen.
That's a little
course,
excessive.
And of course, you know, she's not even listening to all that. She just wants to go meet her brother. Now, it's like, this dude's supposed to be an adult. I'm about to get on and say, hey, do you have any daughters? Do you have any nieces that are 17? Would you let them drive 6.5 fucking hours with they've never been on the interstate before? The answer is no. Tell your sister that she's nuts and stop getting mad at us. It's like, come on.
Exactly.
She's like, well, how did you learn? Well, I don't count.
Yeah.
I learned because I had to pull a jet ski from Ohio to Tennessee on my permit, but that I don't count. I'm a different monster. You want it? So I'm like,
do as I say, don't do as I do.
But it's like, no. And oh, by the way, she doesn't have a job. So guess who would be financing the gas to Jacksonville, the food to Jacksonville,
no, the
fun and expenditures to Jacksonville? Guess who's already paying for the insurance on the car that she wants to drive to Jacksonville? It's like, no. And no. I told her, I said, how about this weekend you go drive down Bayshore and hop on the interstate and drive I don't know, Fort Myers. Start there first.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot different. I said, it's a lot different driving 55 miles an hour versus people flying by you at 90 and 100.
Yeah.
I was like, the speed limit is 75. People drive 80. Well, that's them, not me. I said, yeah, but they'll be sailing past you. Semi truck. She's never experienced a semi truck sailing past her at 80 miles an hour in her little Hyundai Elantra. She don't know what wind drift is, yet she wants to make a 5-hour haul to fucking Jacksonville. Thank you, no.
So that brings up an interesting question. I've got 2 grown kids now. Took them both for their driver's test. And I don't know how yours was, Don. So we'll start with Mike because he's the baby of the bunch. What did you
It's just
take
a
your
baby
test in
boy.
Florida?
I did not. No,
Where'd you take yours?
North Carolina.
What did it consist of?
I'll tell you. In the state
Dragon
of
gay
North
minorities
Carolina,
down the street, moment
Yeah.
truck.
exactly.
No, I'm sorry, that's Texas.
In the state of North Carolina, they gave us the option in 8th grade. I believe it was 8th grade or freshman, maybe it was freshman year, to take the test and just get an idea if we knew. If we passed it at the time, we didn't have to take it again. And that
The road
Now, are you
test.
talking
those
written or
scores,
skills?
The written test.
yes, the written test. The written test was 200 questions, and
How
you had to score, I think, a 79 or above.
how many traffic laws does South Carolina have that you have a 200 question written test? It's usually
North Carolina, and there's mountains.
tire tread depth, when to use turn signals, what merge versus yield means,
Not anymore.
what's
And
it
not
called
not
when you-
even then. It may, I don't know if it's even worse now or if it's, less or what, but at that time, I mean, they would teach you stuff about manual versus automatic. Driving downhill in a manual and not letting, not putting the clutch in neutral and letting, coasting downhill using your brakes. Letting the engine brake the vehicle going downhill.
Okay,
Driving
how many
through
questions?
snow, black
how-
ice, things like
How
that.
many questions were there?
It's at the time 200.
Okay, I'm looking right now, 2025.
Mhm.
How many questions, Morgan Long, do you think are on the Florida driving written test?
35.
Mike, how many do you
I was
think?
going to say 25.
50.
Oh, really? It's
There's
more than I
50.
thought. Okay.
25 questions on road rules and 25 questions on road signs.
Right.
Now,
And that's what it was in North Carolina was pretty much like there was different sections on different types of things, but
I love the outdated ones. Like when you're parked on a hill facing down, how do you park your car?
yeah.
Well, you got to put on the emergency brake and roll your tires to the right. Motherfucker, ain't nobody driving standard vehicles and parking in. First off, raise your hand when you had a standard vehicle. Did you park in neutral?
No.
Fuck no. I never understood the people. You know who park in neutral? I'll tell you exactly who parks in neutral. People who learn to drive in Texas, California, and Florida.
Mhm.
Why? Why? What's the difference between Texas, California, and Florida and just about everywhere else in the state?
Ain't no hills around here.
Okay. Any other mechanical reasons? Any other
Well, I mean,
weather-related
you're-
reasons?
Rain?
I mean, your parking brake's not going to, your
No
shoes aren't gonna
snow?
freeze to the drum.
Yes. When you have a car that experiences salt every year and you turn on your emergency brake, guess what doesn't turn off? And you're driving down the street like, why does my car smell like a book of matches? Because your parking
I-
brake's fucking stuck on. So
I
like
don't know. If you do a little maintenance, it'll be fine.
16-year-olds maintenance. Gotcha. I mean, I did work on my car, but that consisted of oil changes and brake calipers, not emergency brakes and transmissions. But no, growing up poor, especially in the 80s and 90s, it was like a rule of thumb: do not use your parking brake because that motherfucker's going to stick and you're going to be smelling matches.
Right.
And so, but you have these driver tests who still treat your cars like people are still parking in neutral on the hills using their parking brakes. Create your
Yeah.
parking. Turn.
Well, and going back to Morgan's original question,
Mhm.
it was 200 question written test. And then it was a 3-day driving exam.
Wow, holy What year was
3
this?
days. Good Lord. What are they taking you to the Outer Banks or what?
Now, was this 3 days?
It was 2009 or 10.
Well, for clarity,
Maybe
was this the
maybe
driving
8.
exam that was 3 days or driver's ed class?
Exam.
Wow.
3 separate days.
That is a completely inefficient way of doing. Here's how it worked in Ohio.
Holy Moses.
And I can speak on Florida because I had 2 daughters get theirs here in Florida, and I had mine in Ohio. In Ohio, it's not like the movies. We didn't have driver's ed in class. Our schools were too poor for that shit. You had to pay for driver's ed out of your pocket. You know, in 1996 money, it was like $200, and you had to go like for a week, X amount an hour. It was like, I don't know, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours a day for like a week. And then you had to do in driving where the driver's ed instructor would come get you. And if they're super busy, what they'd do is they would stack the car, right? He would be in the passenger side with the wheel and the extra brake. You'd be driving maybe 2 assholes in the back, and you guys would drive for 20 minutes and then switch.
That's what it was like in North Carolina.
Or if you
but
got
ours
lucky,
was part of high school.
Ours wasn't full part of school. This is the private enterprises. But if you're lucky, like I did, I was the only one. And I don't know. I think to Mike's point, I think it was like a total of 8 hours, right? You'd go drive for 2 hours for 4 days or whatever, but it wasn't part of the test. This was all stuff you did before you went to your exam.
Yeah.
So we lived in Ohio, and I remember my driving instructor. He lived out of Columbus's area. It'd be like the difference of like if I lived in Naples and he lived out in I don't know, out past Alva or maybe up by Lake Okeechobee. And he's like, you want to bust some miles out today? Okay, great. I got to drive out to, I forget, bumfuck Egypt, Ohio, and pay a parking ticket. So we just drove.
That's the guy that you want teaching.
Drove out of Westerville. I had to go drive. It was either a parking ticket. It could have even been a speeding ticket. I had to go drive my driving instructor like an hour from where I'm from to go pay this ticket. And then turn around and come back. So I busted out like my 8 hours in over 2 classes because it was just me and we just drive around.
So the way that, go ahead.
And he told and I still use this to this day. He's kind of, I think maybe maybe an old dirt track racer. He was a good old boy. And he said, this ain't on the exam, but just rule of thumb. When you're heading down the road and you know how when you make that turn, they have the speed limit for the turn. You know, the speed limit may be 45, but it'll say just turn 25. So basically, you can safely double it and not have to worry about flying off the road. So if it says 25, you can hit that bitch at 25 and be perfectly safe.
50.
And it's true. Unless you're driving an 18-wheeler or pulling a utility trailer, you can. If it says 35, you can hit it at 60 and not worry about being unsafe.
Yeah. So, yes. So going back to that whole point, like it was a 200 question exam that we did in school, which initially I failed. And then I had to go through a remedial class after school, which was like, I think like another 8 hours. And then you would go with the teacher that was doing the actual exams and stuff in school. And we'd go through that. Then you passed the written exam. And then you did 3 days of driving. And he usually picked you and one other person out of your class for a specific day of the week. And he had the brake. He didn't have the steering wheel, but he had the brake, because that's the most important thing is just stopping.
Yeah, they can always reach over
exactly. So
for you young kids living, in modern days where you didn't have to ride dirty, back in the day when marijuana was illegal, you couldn't smoke that shit at home, right? We all had 5 speeds, right? And so while we're shifting and trying to light the bowl, it's quite common. You'll meet 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds nowadays, and I freak some fucking people out. Like, you'll be riding passenger and somebody will be futzing with something, and so you'll go grab over to grab their wheel to drive for them, and they're like, what the fuck you doing? It's like, you don't know how to do this? Did you never smoke? When we were in high school, you had to steer for the guy lighting the bowl who was driving the car. So everybody in their 40s in Ohio, at least my friend groups, we're real good at driving from the passenger seat.
My wife did it for me. My wife did it for me the other day at 80 miles an hour on the fucking interstate. Yeah. I mean, that's not.
Or you're steering with your knees while lighting, or you're steering with your knees while lighting your cigarette, drinking, checking to see if you won your Mountain Dew fucking award underneath the lid, and loading your CDs in. Think about that for a second. we are digressing as humans. We used to be able to shift, drive, smoke, load CDs or 8 tracks, depending on if you're us or Morgan. Kids can't drive nowadays with blind spot detection, crumple zones, automatic slow, automatic starting, automatics.
Two hands on the wheel and
automatics,
lane assist and
lane assist,
auto stop.
And people are worried about, I love it. You know, you shouldn't video TikToks while you're driving. Why? This is not fucking hard.
No.
But we're digressing. We can't handle just one wheel and holding a phone. I'm not even making eye contact. You know what's more dangerous than a guy filming TikTok while driving? Eye contact talkers. You ever seen these fucking people? What's that, Bobby? Eye contact talkers are the most dangerous thing on the road, and they're worried about people holding up a cell phone driving. Meanwhile, there's Steve. And then what happened?
Yeah. I'll admit it. I hold, even when I'm in like driving around for work and stuff like that, I still hold my phone in my hand to check my maps and stuff like that. I have somewhere that I can set it down, but I'm so used to it, I just keep it in my hand and I check it every now and again. Or sometimes I'll hold it with 2 fingers and keep the other 3 on the back of the steering wheel. And
meanwhile, there's some 105-year-old listening somewhere saying, when I was 17, I was flying a P-47 Mustang with a notepad taped to my leg, writing down the coordinates with pencil while being chased by Japs all at the same time.
Yeah.
That's how they did it.
Exactly.
It was paper coordinates with a compass or like crawling on their leg.
Yeah.
While being shot at by crowds.
Morgan, what was your original
He wanted to know the procedures to the driving exam.
Right.
And to Morgan's...
Well, even more than that, after those 3 days of driving, you actually went down to the DMV. After you passed all that shit, you had to take another 25-question test on a computer just to verify that you knew what you were talking about. You didn't fucking fuck up the test. And then you got to get your permit.
Then you got your permit?
And then after that, and my situation was a little bit weird because I had my permit when I joined the military. And then I went through like driving school and stuff like that. Well, I went through basic training with just my permit. And then I came out of that after I graduated and I got my regular driver's license. And I had to take another 25-question test after that. That's just insane. To get my regular driver's license.
I was such a bad student. I would have never got my fucking license. Maybe that's the point. Nightmare. Maybe they're trying to weed out all the fucking rednecks. To Morgan's question, in Ohio, like I said, it was the driving test, the driving exam. I mean, the classes, the driving classes, and then Kentucky and Ohio are both the same way. If you took your driving exam in a standard, they made you park on a hill at a red light.
Yeah.
And if that car rolled back even 3 inches, you failed.
Yeah.
Now, when I turned 17, I didn't get my license until I was close to 18. So when I got 17, I bought my 1991 Chevy S10 off my dad, who had taken it away from my brother after he wrecked it and ragged it out.
That's what I had.
And so my brother and his dickhead friends thought it was cool. They put in a 78 Camaro steering wheel, so it had no horn. And so I had to put an air horn in it. I ended up taking my driving exam in my stepmom. I ended up taking my driving exam in my stepmom's Chrysler Voyager minivan with wood paneling because it was an automatic and it had a horn and all the accoutrements worked and not this ragged out, clapped out, beat up S10 with a bench seat and a fucking Camaro steering wheel and no radio.
I love that S10.
But to Mike's point, you know how they say people can't drive nowadays?
Yeah.
You know how you said after all that bullshit, you still had to go down to the DMV and take a test to prove that you know. Sariana took her driving test online.
Yep.
No Zoom, no camera. Not saying it happened, but hypothetically, an experienced driver could take the test for them. There's no evidence that they took the test. They're not on camera. They're not, there's no proctor that comes in and verifies you're not going out into a public. No, you fucking take the exam in your bed, and it could be you. It could be your grandfather. Who fucking knows?
What what I was just thinking about the other day, because I know a lot of other states out there say, "Oh, Florida drivers are the worst," and blah blah blah
Well,
blah
yeah,
blah.
because they're having their friends take their license for them.
Right, right. But my, I was just thinking the other day. You know what they should implement is you should have to take your test every few years to prove that you can fucking drive.
At least every 10, or maybe every milestone.
I
Like
would
at
I would
35.
say sooner than that. I would say sooner than that. And if you fail it, sorry, driving's out of the question for you.
Yeah.
You should not be allowed to drive if you fail a fucking basic driving test.
Here's a thought.
So
Here, to Mike's point, you should be forced to get a new driver's license every time you move from a different model size car. So you got your driver's license in a Honda Civic,
A different
and then you get
class,
married, and all of a sudden your rich husband wants you to drive an Escalade. Guess
Yeah.
what, sweetheart? You're getting your Escalade license.
Yeah. Yeah.
well, that's like driving RVs.
Yeah.
You have to have a CDL with
For an
air brake
RV?
endorsement. No,
Depends on the
that's what I'm
state.
saying. Like
Oh.
to drive a truck,
Yeah.
you have to have a CDL, air brakes,
Yep.
whatever else.
But you can drive down to
Go down and
Penske and order the
buy-
biggest box truck they have on a fucking residential license.
Yeah.
Or you can go down to Camping World and buy yourself a really nice diesel pusher
Yeah.
with air brakes and all that stuff.
Yeah. Like a fucking
And-
60-footer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't have to have any sort of training or anything. You can
Right.
just go do it.
Which has air brakes, which
Oh yeah.
has a diesel engine in it, which is basically a semi truck and trailer that is not hinged.
Basically.
Those trailers are 52 foot. Our
Yeah.
trailers in the military were 42.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's basically what it is. I certainly trust the fucking truck drivers with fifth wheels and shit way faster than I trust those fucking guys in the RVs.
Crazy
So-
thing is, as I was saying, I learned how to drive by pulling a jet ski from Columbus to Wolf Lake in Tennessee, or Lake Cumberland, pulling a jet ski in a 1991 clapped out Chevy S10. I haven't pulled a trailer since then. Then when I got my Tundra and I was pulling my dad's 18-foot camper, that was luxury because my truck
Yeah.
actually has you go into the computer, set what size trailer you're pulling, and then it actually has the electronic braking system so that I can adjust it has a slider so you can adjust, what do they call that? The
Yeah.
drag, the whatever.
The game,
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
adjust the gain so that, it actually controlled the braking system. And that was a game changer. It was so easy to drive
Yeah.
pulling that when your truck can adjust the brakes and control the braking
Yeah.
system on there.
That was a nice upgrade that I got when I got my truck. Was I got the towing package.
Yep.
It was
Mhm.
it was a standard package that came with the truck on the lot. And it's got the brake controller and all that, because my
We just
dad
got
has
the
the
same
same exact
package.
truck, but where that brake controller goes, he didn't have the towing package, so it's just a little cubby. So it came with the brake controller. It's got I mean, they all have 7-pin connectors now, but I have used it with brakes and heavier loads, and it works really well. A lot
and the nice
a lot
thing about
nicer than the
having
old trucks that I had.
having the trailer brakes is if your trailer starts to sway, you
Yeah.
can just reach down and
Just
hit
grab-
the trailer
just-
brakes and
just tap it, yeah.
it'll straighten it back out.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
as Mike was questioning, what was the juxtaposition or the purpose for your question originally?
Oh, I was just curious because I know that back in the Conestoga days when I took my driver's test, we had to parallel park. We had to
Apply
park on a hill.
horseshoes.
Yeah, we
farrier.
had to, get out and, brush down the horse and make sure that, everything was good with him.
Don't want to put it away
But-
wet.
And then when I took my oldest son for his driver's test, I don't know, it was like 2011, 2012, something like that.
He's what, 29?
Oh no, hold on. It would have
He's
was born in
42, but he's got a real bad
95.
severe case of autism.
Yeah. Well, he was born in 95, so
Okay,
2000.
He's 30.
Yeah, he will be.
So
So
16, so 15 from 30 is that would be 2010, so 2011.
yeah,
16.
yeah.
my oldest daughter's
So
born in 97, 96.
so when I took him, I settled in, had a magazine or something on my phone or something.
Hedge born.
And yeah, and I'm just sitting back, and all of a sudden he's like, "Okay, let's go." And I'm like, "Wait, it's been like 12 minutes." And he's like, "Yep." So he took his test at the one on Pine Ridge in
Yeah.
Gladiolus.
Hmm.
They made him drive out, drive up the block, go down a side street, stop, make a 3-point turn in this little dead end road,
Mm-hmm.
go back out onto Pine Ridge, and back down to the DMV and into the parking lot and park.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's basically what they do with Sirianna. They go through a quick checklist and you're done. My oldest daughter failed it 3 times. I don't know what I wasn't there. I was always working. I don't know what she did, but she failed the actual driving part 3 times. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I was so nervous about mine. I my birthday's in July. I called the 2nd of January to get my appointment. And the old lady that answered the phone at the DMV was laughing at me. She's like, "Yeah, you don't have to call this early." And I'm like, "I want the 8 o'clock appointment on my birthday."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So uh I think my appointment was at 8:15. By 10:30, I had my license was out the door. But yeah, they make you parallel park, drive on the freeway.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I can't even remember all
They
of
didn't
it.
make Sirianna. I don't think no, they didn't make Sirianna drive on the freeway. You figure they would. Speaking of cars and being kids, installing car stereos nowadays is super wicked easy. Especially if you buy one specific to, because I put the Android based one in my dad's Tacoma, super easy.
What year is that car?
I just put one in her Hyundai. It's a 2010.
Okay.
Now the cool thing is the radio looks like it's built into the dashboard. And there's a big
Yeah.
plate, and it has the air vents. This new Android one came with the bezel, so I literally pulled the old radio out, removed the AC vents from her old bezel, popped it in the new one, took the emergency hazard light button out of the old one, popped it in the new one because the old one's all scratched up anyhow. So basically, not only does she have a nice Android radio, but she has a whole brand new bezel faceplate. And the little clock that mounts in there, the screen was all cracked out. I just ordered a used one on eBay from some junkyard for $25. So it's going to be here on Friday, and it looked like her whole console and her dashboard is going to be brand new.
Where'd you get the stereo and all that?
They're $100 on Amazon. They're literally
With
so
the
crazy.
bezel and everything for that
Yeah,
car?
it's so crazy.
Wow.
Like you pull out these head units because it's so old enough that it had a CD player, and they're this deep. The new
Mhm.
ones are literally just tablets.
Yeah. Yep.
And so you don't have to, they don't even mount in like really. Like hers is screws to that snaps in that faceplate.
Yeah.
They're super easy to put in. And the best part,
Yeah.
like if you go on Amazon, like, okay, I need one for a 2005 Honda Civic. They come with the universal harnesses. So you don't even you're not even cutting and butt splicing anymore. It's literally just plug and play. The only thing
butt splicing, I used electrical tape.
I've seen enough
I went
cars
that
catch
ghetto.
on fire. Well, I said this before. By the time I got to my senior year wood shop, they'll let me install people's car stereos because I've already done 8 semesters. But anyhow,
yeah.
The only thing that sucks is the microphones for like the voice to talk. It literally came with a fucking lav mic on like a 4-foot wire. So I had to plug it in and then wrap it up and try to place it somewhere. And then I still have to install the backup camera. So that's $100 with a backup camera, a GPS antenna. It has built-in GPS. $100. It comes with a camera, a GPS, the bezel, and the damn radio.
Yeah.
And it works great.
Yeah.
I did have to, after I put it in, it wouldn't power on. I got out my bug light, turned out the fuse was bad. I'm like, I bet her old radio worked.
That was the interesting thing. I don't have, I mean, I used to buy a lot of stereos back in the day. And that was kind of a little mini hobby that I used to have, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of glad I got out of it because
Well, your
fuck
son's
was
going
that
to be
shit
so
expensive.
lucky.
But
Your son's going to be so lucky. The
yeah,
amplifiers are Bluetooth now.
yeah,
There's no running RCA cables underneath your fucking carpet, underneath the
yeah.
seats. All you got to do is run your power and your negative,
Hmm.
and it's all Bluetooth.
Well, just as an example of that, um, but going back to what I was originally saying is I bought a stereo. I think it was for my S10 when it was like a little mud runner
Mm-hmm.
for a little while, or maybe it was the Blazer that I had. But I was like, oh, it needs a new stereo or whatever. It was the one was in, it was old and whatnot. So I went out there and I was like, oh, media receiver. I was like, what is this? And I usually buy name brand shit.
Yeah.
I usually go for like Kenwood or Pioneer or something like that.
Orion, Sony, BBC.
So it was like
Blah,
Media Center.
punk.
I was like, what is this? And it said no CD. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I don't fucking have CDs anymore. I mean, I do, but I don't
No.
use them. So I pull it out of the box. It's fucking this wide.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell is this? This is not it had the RCAs and shit in the back still.
It
It
was an
had the
add-on.
antenna slot and all that stuff, but it didn't have a disc player. It was just AM, FM, Bluetooth. You could use satellite radio with it. And I don't remember what else it had, but there I even had got one that was an actual media center where
Mm-hmm.
you could like, videos and stuff like that on it too. And it was all touchscreen and it was only about that fucking deep too. And that was
Mhm.
wild.
And well, this one you can connect to your hotspot on your phone and then watch YouTube on it while you're sitting in the
Right.
parking lot. I will
Right.
say the only dumb shit is the antenna that on the antenna harness on the Hyundai itself is not your standard barrel plug with the fucking thumb sticking out.
Yeah, not
It's this
anymore.
weird funky thing. So now it almost looks like a coax cable. So now I got to get an adapter, but she don't listen to FM radio anyhow, so I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah. Nobody does.
But
But
it's
to
so
the
easy to install this shit, and it's so cheap. I'm gonna
So
get one for Carrie's Jetta. If we don't get rid of the Jetta, the 2016 Jetta, I'm just gonna put one in there.
yeah. But the
so I
oh,
oh
oops.
wow, there
What
you
did you
are.
do
That
there?
was weird.
So when you
I
were
switched positions.
rattling off names, I actually have in my F-250 a state-of-the-art blah punk
Nice.
uh AM
Really?
FM Bluetooth. Well, yeah, but it's like we've like our conversation a week or two ago about uh buying the licensing for products.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I paid $28 for it on Amazon. I mean, I remember when, if you were going to buy, I mean, basically Volkswagens and Porsches were the only things that came with a blah punk stereo in it. And
Yeah.
if you had one of those, man, you were the shit.
My
Yeah.
creme de la creme radio. I had an Alpine CD player. Can't remember the model number.
Trying to steal an Alpine.
I had an Alpine CD player with I think 150 watt Phoenix Gold amp with two
Ooh.
Sherwin Vega 12 isobaric in a box, and the hatchback of my sweet ass 1989 Ford Escort LX, and that fucker thumped. It got stolen right before I moved to California. I've had when I lived in Ohio, every
He
car
was
I
rolling
had.
to 1.8
Well, here's the crazy thing.
with the Vegas pumping.
Here's the
Yeah.
crazy thing. You want to talk about ESP? Me and my ex-wife just got divorced, and my buddy from high school is my roommate, and we're still working at Horton building ambulances. And missed about 3 months before I up and moved to California. It was like 1 in the morning on a Sunday, and I'm up there taking a shower, and I need to go get everything out of my fucking car. Walking outside, and Jason's like, "Where the fuck are you going?" I'm like, "I got to get my CDs and everything I can get out of my car." He's like, "Why?" I said, "I just have this feeling." 6 o'clock in the morning, boom, 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 boom. Neighbors, somebody's stealing a box out of the back of your truck. That night they came, fucking popped the lock, stole my speakers and amp, but didn't steal the head unit. How fucking
Damn.
crazy is that? Ever since I left Ohio, now granted, Ohio is the city I grew up in. Everybody knew where I lived, but I lived in Long Beach, California. I had a little 8-inch subwoofer in there. No one stole it. Lived in. I never had any subwoofers down. Yeah, I had a subwoofer in my Firebird when I lived down here. No one. I haven't had a car broken into since I left Columbus. But while I lived in Columbus, I lost probably over 200 CDs and 3 head units and 4 fucking windows from having
Nobody
my cars
steals
broken
that kind
into.
of shit anymore. It's so fucking cheap. It's
Yeah,
like,
not when it's $100.
yeah,
Well,
Yeah,
not only
well,
yeah,
that, but
you got a
most
$28
16-year-olds don't know
stereo
how
in
to
your
install a
car.
yeah,
stereo.
right. Well, you have that Kicker 12 in that box that I gave you.
I'm going to put that in. It
Um,
may take another year because I found a company who makes aftermarket. They're called Taco Tunes, like Tacoma.
mhm.
They make aftermarket amplifiers that snap into your OEM positions because the Tundras with the upgraded stereo systems, and my Tundra does too. My Tundra has an under seat amplifier,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't have the upgraded system with the subwoofer, so there's no subwoofer out on it. But I can go on their website and for like $250, get a replacement unit that has subwoofer out. Then all I got to do is put that box you gave me underneath my back seat, and Bob's your
Nice.
uncle.
See, and I had it in my wife's car because, I've got it.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, I got a buddy of mine. He actually lives in my community here, but
Is that the asshole shows up at your house and makes you fucking take forever every time you and I decide to go fishing at 7:30 in the morning?
sometimes, yeah.
This fucking guy. This
Um,
fucking guy. How many times have I been at a boat ramp at 7 in the
Fucking
morning on a
guy.
fucking Saturday? Mark said, my neighbor's here, hold me up. It's like, Jesus Christ, tell him you gotta go.
no, he's a
Last
good
time he
guy.
didn't show up till
He really
9:30.
is. He
Not that it
really is.
mattered because I left my
He's a
paddle
good
at
guy.
home.
Yeah, don't even go there with me because you forgot your fucking paddle.
I unloaded my boat. I'm waiting on light. I'm getting pissed. I'm like, I'm going fishing. Oh fuck, I don't have my paddle. So
Yeah, I'm gonna
all my
fucking load
shit.
back up.
I'm home. Go get my paddle, and he was there by the time I got back.
Um, but anyway, he was a really big audiophile back in the day, and he put systems in cars, stuff like that. He's got a 2003, I think, Lexus IS 300. It was one of the first cars that had the clear brake light lenses
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Oh
red.
yeah.
And he had lowered and all that stuff. He's Don, actually, I think he's around your age. Um, but I've known him for about a decade now. Um, and he knows my family and stuff like it goes way back. But anyway, he had some stuff and he was moving out of the place that he was living at before he moved over here. And he was like, dude, I got all this shit sitting over here. I was like, I got tools, I got everything. He was like, I got all this audio shit. I was like, all right. And he's like, it's a lot. And he's like, I'm only going to ask you like $300 for it all. I was like, sweet. Let me go take a look and see what you got. He had two 15s, 3 boxes for them,
Damn.
multiple head units, especially, and one in particular that came out of his car that I liked. Um, a Hyphonics Brutus amp, Kicker 4-channel, um, and then some other various like wires and shit like that, and other tools and shit. And he's like, $300, it's all yours. I was like, sweet. So I took it. He actually built a custom subwoofer box for the 15 that was built for the cubic footage and everything and tuned properly for that sub. It's a Scar Audio 15, which those things fucking hammer. And so I threw it in my wife's car. And all I needed to, but because she's got the head unit that's built in,
Yep.
nothing is a single or double din head unit anymore.
Nope.
Um, so she's got it built in. So I was like, well, how am I going to make this work? Well, there's multiple companies out there, but Kicker in particular sells this little fucking audio converter thing
Mm-hmm.
that basically you tie one side of it into speaker wire for signal, basically, and
Mhm.
then you
Mhm.
use the RCAs on the other side of it and put it into your amp.
And it's built over
And then-
crossover in it. Built-in
Huh?
crossover. Had a built-in crossover.
I think it was all automatic and all that. It was just sealed unit, just a 2 input and output, and that was it. And it just said Kicker on the front. I was like, cool. I think that was like $20 or $25 or something like that. So the only thing that I had to run, and mind you,
Power,
it's a
ground.
2017 Honda Civic, and it's one of the little ones.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4-door, but it's tiny. So I ran power, and then I etched a little spot in the wheel well in the trunk
For the
for the
ground.
spare, and I put the ground there, and I
Remote wire.
ran the wires. Remote wire was just what was the remote wire? I think there was a remote wire on that, if I'm not mistaken, on that little converter.
Interesting.
Um,
So what? Whenever the
when it would
audio
give
signal dropped
signal,
out, it would just kill the power.
something like that. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So yeah,
So
it
when
was
you turned
based.
it
It
on, it
was
had like a half a millisecond before the subwoofer kicked in.
correct. Yes.
Gotcha.
So I had that back there, and I mean, it would fucking rat. I mean, we've got a sunroof, and it would fucking shake the fucking window of the sunroof.
So
And she doesn't like that kind of shit. You know,
Yeah.
I grew up liking like a speaker head.
oh,
and
I
like
love to
fucking-
bathe in fucking bass.
it was great. She didn't like it. She was like, just turn it down. And I didn't have a traditional knob to be able to turn it down. But
Yeah,
because it was hooked into the speaker wires,
yeah.
you could utilize the equalizer on the head unit
The
that's
fade.
built in. And all I had to do was I could either fade it forward or I
Yep.
could turn the bass down on everything to be able to turn it down.
Real
But I
quick.
took it all out and I don't know what to do with it now.
Gotcha. Well, I could use an amp. Actually, no, I'm going to get an amp for underneath my seat.
Yeah.
Funny thing, this shit you don't have to worry about now. So, back in the day, like my daughter, my baby mama, I was 17, she was 21. Yeah, she'd been
Yeah.
brought up charges nowadays. But anyhow, as she was getting a divorce, she had her ex-husband's credit cards, and so we went on a spending spree. Now, settle down, we were poor, so our spending spree was a trip to fucking Odd Lots. But she bought me this, or Big Lots for you people, you Florida people. She bought me this $50, 50-watt, no name bullshit amplifier that ran off 18 gauge fucking ground power and remote. So the thing by no means was a monster. When it has a hardwired Molex connector as a power source, this thing is not. So I had it in my S10, and I had a little kicker tube behind it. S10 got broken into. They stole my head unit. They stole my speaker. Saw this piece of shit odd lot amplifier. Said fuck that. Left it alone. And my brother needed a amplifier, so I kicked it over to him. His Omni got broken into. They stole his head unit, stole a speaker, found my odd lot special, fucking left it alone. After my Escort got broken into and I moved to California, Gordon got rid of his car because he's going to Montana. So he gave me his Jensen 10 speaker. And this is 8 years old and 3 car robberies later. He still had that same fucking amp that I had gotten in high school that no one wanted. I powered that thing up. So I had this damn amplifier for years that was shit because no one wanted to steal it. Put that 10-inch Jensen Soliberic single subwoofer down in my 1996 Pontiac Firebird. When you lifted up the flap, they had the insert to lock in your T-tops.
Yeah.
And it was the exact box that my speaker could fit into. And because of the shape of the rear window, it was like an amphitheater, as a cone.
Yeah.
You took the T-tops off that fucking thing, and that 110-inch sounded like 215s. It was insane.
So this is what I've got in the back of my truck.
No.
My
I
my
see that,
youngest
yeah.
son actually bought it for me for when I had my Jeep TJ, because I had the trunk locker thing, and this fit perfectly between the the rear tailgate
built-in
and
amp.
that. Oh yeah, it's built-in amp 10-inch.
Well, the fun thing
And
is
the
Morgan
thing
has no
sounds
interest in
pretty
loud
good.
music.
Yeah.
He has no interest in loud music. He's just trying to play over that straight pipe and no muffler that he has running on.
Well, no, I need loud music now because I listened to it so loud back in the day. I fried my fucking hearing. I can't hear anymore.
See, that was the thing. If you had a bench seat and you didn't have the extended cab or the jump seats or anything like that, you would figure out something like that. See, what I did in my S10,
Bazooka tubes were huge in the 90s.
that was another big thing too.
Oh yeah.
But what I had in my S10 was I had an old it was particle board, but it was you remember back in the day house speakers
Yeah.
where some of them would have like 2 10s and some mids and some tweeters and stuff like that. I don't remember
phasing-
what they're
The
called.
fucking phasing's completely different. You will
Yeah.
destroy a head unit trying to push. I've seen it happen. You see
That's
people
not what
driving-
that's not what I used.
I
That's
know,
not what
but you would
used,
see
though.
those people with the bookshelf speakers up on the rear
Yeah.
deck of their window. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
ass.
That was some of the first audio stuff that I used to do when I was like preteen, teenager, like in my mom's car.
My cousin Johnny, he had a little Toyota truck. He built a bass cannon out of a like 8-inch woofer and a
Yeah.
roll of carpet.
Nice.
He just
So,
wrapped carpet into a roll and taped it
yeah.
around the speaker.
So what I ended up doing with that is I had my S10, which was the single cab, swing seat, bench seat, and
Naugahyde.
the lock on that it broke long time ago, so it just fucking you just pull it forward. So anyway, what I did was I took one of those house speakers that I had. It was like a mid height or whatever, not real tall one. And I cut the box in half long ways, and then I mounted a whole new front piece of plywood to it. It looked like dog shit, but whatever. And I cut out 2 holes for 6x9s, and I put those in there, and I've sealed it all up and everything like that. And it was just thick enough to fit right behind the back seat. And man, those things fucking thumped. I mean, 6x9s are the shit.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no other standard speaker out there. I mean, your 6.5s are okay. Your 8-inch speakers and stuff like that for doors are all right. Even your 5 and 3/4 or whatever.
Yeah, 5 3/4.
But your 6x9s have the best fucking sound.
Whether that
whether
because
they're
they use your
coaxial,
trunk as your speaker box.
right? Whether they're coaxial uh, speakers, triaxles, or they're actual components, they have the best sound as far as I'm concerned. And
Now you're going way back. The Jensen triaxles.
yeah,
Those were the
we're
speakers
getting,
back in my day.
yeah,
Holy shit.
we're getting nutty here now.
Guess what I just found?
What'd
Look at
you
this
find?
photo.
Uh-oh.
I just found a photo of when I was putting. That's my fucking Firebird. That's here in Florida. I was
Wow.
but the as you can see, they sent me the wrong size light.
Is that at your house?
That's at my dad's house.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my Pontiac Firebird. I'm sure I have a better picture of it. Speaking of Firebird, my biggest regret is in that Firebird because I had a Suzuki Somersault and then I had my Escort. Well, my Escort, I got 4 1/4 or 5 1/4, whatever the door ones were. I bought a pair of sweet ass Sherwin Vega 3-way speakers, and then I put them in the back of that Firebird behind the driver's seat. And then when it broke down, when I traded it in on my piece of shit Colorado, I was too lazy to take the speakers out, so I basically gave away Sherwin Vega speakers in that car, which would sound great in Sariana's ride.
Yeah. See, and what's interesting is that I kind of grew from just wanting really loud fucking music and really loud bass to wanting more quality. So I used to follow this guy on YouTube that he would like tune audio systems and whatnot. Damn, what happened there?
Remember the story I said about my customer rear-ending me in their Volkswagen?
Maybe.
So this is Carrie's 2015 Jetta. We just bought it. And I was driving to a customer's house to drop off her laptop. I'm sitting at a red light at Daniels Parkway. The left turn arrow turns green. Ours is still red. A Lincoln Navigator just drives right into the trunk. We had the fucking car for 30 days.
Wow.
And the lady's like, oh my God, sorry, I just picked this up from the mechanic. I don't know what happened. Can I use your cell phone? Why? I got to call my computer guy. He's on the way to my house. I'm like, well, what's the company? At Computers. I said, that's me. I said, luckily for you, your laptop is already on the floor of my car. And I called Carrie. I'm like, I just got rear-ended. I've never wrecked a car, but yeah, this is her car. Got rear-ended, and we only had the fucking thing for 30 days.
That's wild.
Oh man.
I'm trying to find a picture of my old S10 in here, but can't find it. But here's.
I used to get really like into like quality, sound quality and stuff like that. And that's nice.
That thing was a piece of shit. That's the car I
see. That's the style that I like.
But see, here's what's crazy. So I moved to Florida. I had my Escort. My parents got rid of their Firebird. So I sold the Escort, got the Firebird. It broke down. I met Carrie. I bought this Chevy Colorado. The thing was a dog. I actually had this piece of shit when I worked at Stan and Haney. And then that's when I got my Tacoma. This was the truck that led me. This was the truck that got me off of Chevys. This was the last Chevy I ever owned. It was such a piece of shit. I traded on my Tacoma. My dad had a Chevy. By the time I got my second Tacoma, my dad traded in his Chevy on a Tacoma. My brother traded in his Dodge for a Tacoma. But yeah, that was my last Chevy I ever owned.
But
I've
see,
never liked the cat eyes.
I love my '05 Silverado was a cat eye. I liked it.
It was just the thing would stall out in neutral, and it was a five speed. It was just a piece of. I have to put gas on it. And my mechanic's like, yeah, that year Colorados are dogs are horrible. I'm like, yeah.
See, I think older American cars, like what Morgan drives around it, like my '83, my '91 even, and I mean, even pushing up into like the mid to late '90s is kind of pushing it a little bit. But like '60s, '70s, and '80s, and early '90s American-made cars were great. But once technology started to become introduced into them, it went to shit.
Yeah.
Electronic shifting transmissions and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
trash. When you get rid of mechanical pumps and solenoids and stuff like that opening and closing to shift your transmission, that's when it starts to become a problem.
So I've got a kid that works for me. He's 28, drives a, I don't know, 5-6-year-old Chevy, Silverado half ton.
Sure.
I had to have him take my truck somewhere today. And he comes back and he goes, man, that pedal is stiff on that thing. And I'm like, yeah, because it's not a wire. It's actually a cable that actually pulls the throttle open.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, look at this. Apparently at some point in my life, I decided to replace the fucking the console glass on my Escort. I don't have a picture of the Escort, but apparently I just found photos of a project I did where I literally have my entire dashboard torn apart because the plastic was all fuckered up. Look at this. You see that?
No.
No, here you go. Look at that old piece of shit radio.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is that Claron?
No, that's Audio Box. That was my
audio box.
That's what I bought after my shit got stolen. This is my Escort that I moved to California, and so after my car got robbed,
Nobody's gonna steal an audio box.
Yeah, so I put the audio box in there with my fucking Odd Lot Special. Goddamn. Yeah, here's the screen I took out. Look at that. I actually replaced that shit. That photo's in California.
Did you roll the odometer back while you had it out?
No. But that's going to wrap it up for this consistent episode of the What's in Your Head podcast, which is going to require a lot of editing because most of this shit you guys won't be able to listen to at home. But thank you guys very much. Remind you, head over to what'sinyourhead.com, click on that Patreon link, sign up and subscribe, and we will talk to you all next week.
This has been a Digital 410 production.